like we're doing three. So
I think it's recording.
it sounds like it. Yeah. There's somebody who's joined us.
Mm-hmm.
For those who are joining us online, if you could in the chat, just put your first name or change your name on the screen so that when there are questions, we might be able to address those in a moderator in the room. And Pastor Pam, welcome. And I'm going to let those in the room that are going to be facilitating and leading sort of introduce themselves as well. Mm-hmm. Okay. So Marta, did you start? I will start. So my name is Martha, and I am the one that helps Pastor Pam get this all organized. We're going to talk about things that are not easy to talk about over the next 4 weeks. And so we're really glad that you're here. Because we are such a small group tonight, it's going to be just more conversation. And so for you that are on Zoom, again, please just either raise your hand or put in a message, and we want to make sure that your questions are answered as well. I am with Concierge Care Advisors. We are a senior advising group that helps people navigate through the whole elder care network of things, of everything.
I'm Terry Beard from Windermere Real Estate, and you don't want me to start now. You want to just do it. Yep, I've been in the business for 38 years. My first home was up here in Makopio in Pewash, and love the area. We live down in Edmonds now.
Natalie, I may ask to have you.
That's totally fine. I didn't want to cut in front.
Come on over here, closer to the staff.
Oh, perfect.
By that way, you can have a chance to answer your face and name.
Perfect.
The screen.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, so my name is Abby, and I'm Abby McKee, and I work with Jenny Girls Estate Services, and we work with people who are transitioning either from their home into senior living or any kind of a downsizing situation where they're staying in their home, but they need to send things out, or they are moving and we need to downsize significantly. We also do estate sales. We do cleanouts and personal property valuations and appraisals. So that's why I'm here.
So what brings you two here?
Well, my mother's 81, almost 82, and she was by herself. My father passed away about 7 years ago. No, almost 9 years ago. And then she's starting to get to the point where we're noticing things and she's not quite ready to admit them or noticing. So it's, yeah. And I have a sister who's 9 years younger than me, who's more outspoken, and when she's usually the one who broached the subject because she thinks of them faster or they're more relevant to her because she has younger kids that my mom sometimes helps out with. But my mom has a hard time listening to her. So I'm trying to, also just, gather information about, like, we know that at some point she won't be able to live by herself, and like my sister already thinks that she shouldn't be driving, but definitely doesn't want her to drive her kids, but we haven't had that conversation yet, but it's coming soon because of the summer camp and stuff that's coming up.
Yep.
So yeah, that's fine.
Welcome. About you, Jeff. You're an easy name to remember.
Yeah. Well, I have both my parents are alive. They're both 83. They've actually done a bit better job than a lot of people have in preparing for their decline. They have long-term care insurance, for example. And my youngest brother, who lives close to them, actually keeps an eye on them and is prodding them to do the estate planning. And when I was out there last fall, we actually used the funeral planning document for its church to help them outline what would they want to do or what would they want to have as their funeral service.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm not exactly young either, and I would like to make plans before it becomes an urgent. I mean, because any one of us really could have a sudden terminal illness or an accident that incapacitates your children. You just cannot think that it's never going to happen.
Mm.
You know, the older you get, the more.
And this isn't just a conversation for us adults in the room, our tech support person, you have parents that someday we're gonna have to have some hard conversations with. It's already sort of started.
Yeah.
So take notes there. So we have somebody, who's there, do we know who that is?
Not sure.
Would you like to, introduce yourself and tell us why you're interested in hearing this tonight? You can, enter in the chat as well.
Okay.
Well, Jerry, I'll let you start.
Sure. We'll make this very easy and simple. I want to just talk to you about the real estate end of it. I'm going to use some notes just because I don't want to miss anything. And whether it applies to parents or whether it applies to your own home, take it for how you can use the services. One of the designations I have is a senior real estate specialist. Means I've gone through the training to make sure that we handle the seniors with the care that they need, and so that's important to me and important to make sure that we take good care of people. When the timing is right, we are here for you. Whether that be now as younger people who want to redo your homes, or get a different home, or helping older people figure out what to do with their home once they what they have to do when they're finished with their home. This sounded like we were going to.
We've got another person joining us. Okay.
It'd be really funny if it exploded.
What?
It'd be really funny if it exploded.
You can have a seat here. That's, I know, I might, just, I don't need to be chair that I'm not taking into account. I'm gonna have to with my old lady hip. Oh, okay, never mind. That screen's gonna do something pretty soon. You're gonna want to be viewing. Yep, so, no worries. Everybody just, I got to get it.
So whether you're downsizing to a smaller home or whatever, we have the ability to help. We want to help simplify the process. It's important that we handle the seniors with kindness, with empathy, with love and tenderness, because we're moving them out of their homes. So you talk about taking away cars or doing that sort of thing. Talk about taking away their homes. It's very difficult. So,
Their front porch. Their front porch.
Actually, it's their memories and their what they've done in that home. So it's truly, truly important that we handle it with care. So, as I said, a compassionate approach. We need to work with someone who genuinely listens, make sure that we hear what they're saying, make sure that we follow their directives of how they want the house to be treated, and looking out for their best interests. Not all agents are the same. Making sure that we look out for their well-being and their financial well-being, making sure that no one takes advantage of them. It does happen. This is their largest asset, and we're going to need their money to do future things, whether it goes to the family or for their care. So we need to make sure we do the right thing and the right thing by the family. Giving them guidance along the way.
Question.
Yeah.
Is there certified, real estate agents that, have gone through some sort of training specifically to deal with elderly clients in that situation? So I don't want to say like a background check or things like that, but that they've been vetted enough that the organization can say this person knows what they're doing for that specific age group and how to have this conversation and not take for granted, those memories.
Sure. So that's That's the designation I was talking about, senior real
Okay.
estate specialist. It's an actual class designation. Have to be in the business and show that you know what you're doing. Preparing the house for sale. This is where I really enjoy what I do. And this goes whether you're just wanting to move up, move down, whether you're old, young, whatever. Getting houses ready for sale is truly one of my fun things that I get to do. First things we do is we do a home evaluation for a person. What is it? What's the value of the home? How much is the home worth? What can we do? Then we look at what can I do to improve the home. If you still have green shag on the floor, probably we need to do some updating. Should we spend a little time, spend a little money, and get the house in perfect shape, so that, or in good shape, not perfect shape, in good shape, so that we can get top dollar for the customer. And we only want to spend money on what truly matters. We don't want to spend money on things that won't bring a person a return on their investment. And very particular about that, because we don't want to spend money where no one sees it and doesn't make any difference. Why don't we show a couple before and after pictures? So this is a house we had in Edmonds. You're looking down a pathway to their little dining room that they have, and to the left you see some red cabinets. Let's do the next one. This is a back bedroom, blue, burgundy, stuff on the floor and all that sort of stuff. And this is, I don't have a clue what that, no, that was a back family room. And you can see it was justified, and that's where, if it was good enough product, we'd have Jenny Grove. But in this instance, we were able to donate quite a few things, and there's some things that had to just go to the dump, and we took care of all that. Same thing there in that room. We had to make it look better, get rid of the couches. Again, very few places take couches these days, so we have to actually send a lot of them to the dump. They can't do anything with them. A lot of home Habitat for Humanity will still take some good ones. There's the red kitchen. So knowing that we want to make sure that we're looking who the buyer pool is. Very few people want a red kitchen. So here's what we did for the house. That's the living room. So now let's see what we did differently. So that was that back bedroom. We ended up cleaning it up, and we worked with an amazing staging team. And I pay for that as part of my process, because we think it gives the customer a lot of money, and it makes them more money. The next one, there's the living room, painted out the whole house inside, just freshened it up, made it as clean as we possibly could.
Do you intentionally keep things neutral?
Pardon me?
Do you intentionally keep like paint colors and all of that neutral?
Absolutely. Incredible white, Chantilly lace, and we're on white colors so that we're because then people can figure out that how their stuff is going to look.
Right.
So I don't make
color contrast.
Yeah. So we bring in that. We painted this room out. We even probably painted out probably the brick to make it look good. So there, and the ceiling top.
That's
that back family room, swivel chairs. Again, staging makes all the difference. We put new carpet in. Let's look at another one. And there's my red kitchen. So I ended up turning it white and I think we put LVP on the floor. Luxury vinyl plank. It's inexpensive and it wears like iron and shows really well. So that's what we do for our houses.
And how many gallons of primer?
actually, I have
You have-
I have an amazing team that just comes in and does it, and you know, and it's all relatively inexpensive. The painters are $36 an hour, which is very reasonable. They're in and out of the house in a size like this for probably $3,000 or $4,000. So, and what a difference it makes. I'm going to just give you a little story about a gentleman because he's in his 80s, and I met with him this last week, and he lives in a condo. The homeowners association has put a special assessment on the property. He's on a fixed income and he can't afford the special assessment. He also has had the house go in disrepair, and so he needs to sell, and he has no money, but he still has lots of equity in the house. So we don't want to just lose that to the homeowners association. So we're going to go in. He's going to go move in with his brother for a short period of time while he figures out where his next landing point is. And we're going to go in and recarpet, repaint, do all those things. Windermere has a program that allows us to do repairs. I also fund quite a bit of it myself sometimes for people. Like we would pre-fund all that, and then we would just take it out of their closing costs, so that they don't have to, if they don't have the money to do it, we'll take care of them for them. In this instance, we'll end up getting it sold before the homeowners association does anything there, and then he'll be able to have walking money. And at 80 some odd, you want him to have as much money as we possibly can. One of our other things that we do, and we use your help on that, is decluttering, taking things out of the house. People are overwhelmed. They don't know what to do with their houses. They have collected. They've been collectors and have collected a lot of things over the years. And just taking it piece by piece and having someone work beside them. We have Hanson Brothers Moving that will set up somebody to come in and work with them to move things out. That's you need more of those people, because until you get started trying to move things out of a house, it's hard. When we work with families where they had to move mom and dad are not there to help, we often just tell the family, take what you want, and then we'll come in and get rid of the rest for you. Whether we use a service or whether we just donate a lot of it, because a lot of stuff is just hard. It's hard to do. Scheduling and coordinating, my job to make sure that we're coordinating it all, making sure that we get it all done. And then getting the house sold, making sure that we get it closed, making sure that the proceeds go where they're supposed to go, and just taking care of it all the way through. That's just my responsibility, my job, and I love doing it. I love my business. Again, 38 years of doing it, and I can't get that, especially helping people. But
sometimes when you run into this spot where their liquid assets are not there and they need to go into some sort of a different living arrangement and they need, how easy is it to get like an advance on the equity or bridge loan or whatever?
That's something we've been working with you guys on, that I checked in with our Windermere Make Ready program. We can find the money to move the people to their next home. So we pay the first few months that you guys need, enough to give us time to get their house sold. And then that money gets paid back. So that's a new thing that we have. So that's something that we're going to be able to help you on.
Right.
Yep. Any questions of me?
If you have family out of state, the Windermere is
You know,
Oh,
I would
please,
want to
but-
find someone perfect for that. Not everyone has the bandwidth to do this.
I know sometimes we have members that are like, mom or dad are in a different state and now they've got to travel and how do we, or should we just move mom here or what?
You need to find someone great in that area that can do the same,
Mhm.
same assistance and hand holding.
Do you have, is through Windermere, is there a vetted resource kind of thing where you can find?
Sure, what we would do is we'd go to that same, senior specialist resource and there's throughout the United States, there'd be those people who have passed that designation. That's how I would do it.
Any other questions? Those who are online, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat.
Do you have to deal with some kind of resistance from the people who
Resistance from the people, resistance from the kids.
resistance from the people?
Yeah, I know, I'm telling you, we have resistance from the people, resistance from the kids.
Those different angles of resistance among the kids.
Yeah,
Potentially.
so I'll just talk about, we had to move my mom into assisted living and she needed to go. She was 90 years old and she, a little bit of resistance but to answer your question, you just have to work through it and you have to take your time. Luckily, these people work through the process with them. It's just a matter of time. You can't push. You can try, but you can't push.
Unless it gets to that point where there's enough injuries or falls that adult people
That was the
get
point.
involved.
That was our
And
point.
then there is no choice.
Yeah.
That's how it's supposed to be.
Yep.
Wow, look at that. Okay, so I'm Abby Jen, and I work with a company called Jenny's Girls Estate Services. And we work with clients who are downsizing and moving or downsizing in general, but staying in their homes. We also do estate sales, as Terry had alluded to, we do estate sales and clean outs. So we are really in the business of handling the emotion around the stuff and the stuff itself, right? I have been a senior move manager now for 2.5 years. I thought it was a great idea to start right before COVID. I was like, this is a great idea. And it has really become something where we work with clients one-on-one at their pace to help them go through the belongings in their home that they are taking with them, that is the most important to them. And then packing all those things up for them. We coordinate the move, get everything moved over there. We do all the unpacking, get all the packing material out of there. And my favorite thing that we do is I tell them, like, I don't even want you there on the move day. I love you, but please don't be there because I'm going to make your bed. Your coffee maker is going to be out. Your toaster is going to be out. I'll hang your pictures if you want, or we'll come back tomorrow and do them. And so we're really able to tell the family, like, if you tell me what you want from your things, I will do the rest. You don't have to call the movers. You don't have to figure out how to get boxes. You don't have to do any of those things except for the hard work of saying, I can only fit so many figurines in my new apartment. Which ones are the most important to me? Because that is really, I find, the thing that holds most people back because of the memory attached to the home and to those things. And they feel like they are losing that piece of their life. So I work with clients really closely, and my team does now. We have 24 people in our business total. We do anywhere from 1 to 3 estate sales a weekend, and we have 3 senior move managers on staff now. So I don't even always have the pleasure of working with clients anymore because I'm out meeting people. But what we do is just really sitting down and saying, okay, you don't, if you want to take your china, that's fine. Let's take your good china, but you're going to take a setting for 4 instead of a setting for 12, right? And allowing them to make the decisions for the things that they want in a really compassionate way. And when you talk about family dynamics, and I'm sure you guys have experienced this, it's hard when you are the adult child of somebody who is resistant to change, trying to get them to let go of things, because you're impartial and there's a power struggle there. Whereas when you have somebody who's objective that they didn't raise, they don't know, everything, it goes a lot smoother and you're able to form this really wonderful bond with them where you're working with them on their behalf. I've met really wonderful families who have truly the best interest in her, and I've met families that clearly do not. And being an advocate for somebody in that situation is really sad, but fantastic that we're able to be there. So from start to finish, what we are able to do is help you. I worked with Marta before to work with clients who are looking for a community to move into. You're taking them on tours and finding them, sending them to me. And then we work with them to decide what you're taking with you, space planning, making sure we're not taking the California King, maybe we're ordering a new queen or a double, making sure that arrives in time, getting TV set up, Comcast set up, computers hooked up, all those things that are overwhelming and daunting for a lot of our older adults. And then, from there, we're able to take what they want, the house, if there's still things left in the house enough to make it make sense for an estate sale, then we can do an estate sale. And what I love is we're able to do it all in one, so we can often offset the cost of their move by doing an estate sale. And then from there, whatever is left over that doesn't sell, we can get donations out, household hazmat out, e-waste out, couches that need to go to the dump, unfortunately. And so we're able to, in that time frame, get somebody moved, hand the keys off to your realtor and say, here you go. And the whole time, the family and the client has been able to just be as hands off as they want to be. And because we do it all in-house and I'm a resident bookkeeper too, you're not looking for all these other services to come in. We really can handle it start to finish. We have been in the vintage realm, reselling realm for over 10 years now. We started with me and my mom selling at the Edmonds Waterfront Antique Mall with my grandma's things, Jenny. When she had to move out of her house and move into senior living, we didn't know what to do with her things. It was a hobby that we started for fun. And 4 years ago, she called me and said, I'm going to start doing estate sales. And I said, okay, well, I'm about to have a baby, so we'll talk in a little bit here. And now it's what I do full time, is working with the estate sales and working with clients in their moves and getting out and kind of getting the message out there to people that there is somebody that will help you with this, because it is so overwhelming. There is somebody that will come in and talk with you and mom about the reality of what the next couple of years are going to look like. In the same token, we've also gotten calls from, Linwood Fire, Edmund Fire, where there have been a number of falls in a home, unfortunately, and somebody needs to clear space to be able to go back home safely. And in those situations, we will come in, we work with them for 2 to 4 hour chunks of time, or at the absolute most, honestly, one-on-one with somebody. And every day I fill up my car and I drive it away, and it's just gone, right? Day by day, and they see that momentum building, and it really helps to create a positive experience. I've met with people who say, I know I need to move in assisted living, but as soon as I leave, my kids are going to put everything in a dumpster, so I don't want to go yet. And that is so heartbreaking, because he's just digging his heels in harder, right? Because of the negative kind of feelings around his things, his memories. And so we really work to combat that and respect people where they're at and their lives and their history, but also the reality of you need a little more help and we can't do it here. So that's what we do. I have some packets, if you guys want them, that have some tips to downsize and some information. I just want to bombard you with stuff, so I can hand those out. Do you have any questions for me?
What you do unique, because like my mom doesn't live here.
Where does she live? Oh, yeah. So there's, so I'm part of a national affiliation called NASM, which is the National Association of Senior and Specialty Move Managers. Really a mouthful. But similar to Terry, we have to be, take classes to be part of that group. So on ethics and contract and all sorts of things. And so I'm able to reach out to them to find other people that do senior moves, similar to that I do. In other areas. I don't go to Pulso, but I do know some that are further south. I've had to locate them in California, Florida. Yeah. So moving people out of state or people moving here. So yes, there are others like me. Yeah.
Yeah, I know my parents could have used someone through
Yeah.
one that they moved from a big house to a smaller house.
Yeah.
And they still put too much
Way
stuff
too much.
because my mom cannot let go of stuff.
Mm-hmm. And we tell them, like, you know, ultimately my job is not to sit here and tell you what you can or can't take. My job is to sit here and present you with the reality and keep you safe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how many China hutches you want to take with you. I really don't care. As long as you're not going to trip over them and they're not going to fall on you, do what you want to do. It's your life, it's your home, it's your thing. However, if it causes safety concerns or anything like that, that's where we have to say, no, thank you. And when people are moving into senior living communities, you know, they have more stringent rules on what the apartments need to be maintained as. And so working with people through that is kind of another loss in the independent, you know, chain of now you can't even have a rug in your apartment, things like that. So working with people through that can be really challenging, but we want to respect them as much as we can. Yeah.
Do you work only one-on-one with the client, or is the family brought in for part of that conversation? It depends on the dynamic.
It depends on the dynamic. Yeah. There's been times where we need to have somebody else there with us, helping us guide the decision making on packing, because somebody may be so far in their dementia journey that we don't know them well enough to know what makes sense to pack for them. We're pretty good at getting a feel for somebody by looking at their things, but we want to make sure we're, you know, doing everything for them. There's been times where we've had family come in or friends or people to help, and we've had to have some hard conversations because it's not helpful. And we just try to handle that with a lot of tact. Oftentimes, I find that family realizes that they don't need to be there. They might be there in the beginning, and then after a while, we're just, you know, one of the kids.
You're comfortable with.
Yeah, and we get that. We get that sometimes, and that typically the oldest daughter has been taking care of mom for 20 years, has been watching mom, keeping an eye on things, and to all of a sudden not have to worry about it. It's a big change for the daughters as well as the mom, right? So we just try to roll with it and make sure we keep the rails on the lane and go from there. Yeah.
When you set up their Comcast,
Yes. Yes.
can you also teach them how, or can you be on call for the iPad and the iPhone?
No, this is just doing it. I have a client who routinely FaceTimes me. She is lovely. She FaceTimes me usually in the evening because she has trouble with using her iPad, and I walk her through it on FaceTime.
That's what she can FaceTime.
She can FaceTime. Yeah. Yeah. She can FaceTime, but she gets a little lost in it.
There's a job out there.
Yeah. No.
There's a job.
Yeah, you're like, I might find this book. But, you know, you could look at going into communities and teaching tech seminars.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Things like that. No, it's okay. So we really do our best to, you know, we've done photo digitizing. People that have that tends to be one of the. I have an entire storage closet full of photo albums, and we will sit there, we will organize the photos, send them all out to be digitized. We'll make photo books of, a lot of times it's like those sentimental things that can't go, and they are afraid by losing the thing, they'll lose the memory, right? So if you make one of our tricks is I will make you a photo book. I will take nice pictures of your things, well lit on a flat white surface, and we'll make a photo book, and you can keep that, and we'll put a little blurb in there. We've worked with clients to go through their jewelry, kind of their heirloom jewelry, and label it, who gave it to them and when, so that when the time comes, their daughters know why it was important in the first place. Because if not, they have, and that's part of her specific struggle. I think a lot of people do is nobody's going to know who's in these pictures if I don't keep them. Nobody's going to know who gave me this necklace if I don't keep it. And so by documenting those memories, it can be really helpful. So, yeah.
There was a couple of years ago, and I thought it was you that told me that it might not have been, but the art and handwriting is going away. And with these photo books, to have a handwritten description that gets put into that is a gift that has a lot of meaning to it. Our kids don't want our China and crystal and all of that kind of stuff. That kind of a thing, it doesn't take up a ton of room.
Yeah, because if you had pictures of, let's say, a set of china, and we took a picture of it, and then mom wrote a note, this was my wedding china when me and dad got married, and I loved it because of this, and it was a handwritten note in there, that's her handwriting, and that has a level of sentimentality that is irreplaceable, right? And some people may not care, and that is okay, but I can tell you that the person writing the note cares. They care, and that's important, and that's not to be disregarded just because somebody else further down the line might not be as concerned.
To me, a photo book is all digital or whatever.
So we would scan it.
You scan them out.
Right, so we would get it scanned and put it in a photo book. So it's not like a photo album, right? It's like a, and so you take the photos, we can scan it, take a picture of it and put it in there. So they have a digital copy of it. And then if they want to keep it or, things like that. A lot of times we get the, I've got all my kids' stuff in my attic from when they were growing up, right? And I will say this, I have yet to meet many children that actually truly want many of their parents' things. And so what I tell them is if they want it, set a date that is realistic. If they live out of state or something along those lines, that's a different story. But set a date, and if it's not gone by then, you are not obligated to keep their stuff, and you're certainly not obligated to live in a home where you're not being cared for well because their kindergarten artwork is in your attic. So, or their sports trophies, whatever it is. So, kind of working through a lot of those emotional things that go into the stuff instead of just saying it's stuff is really key in helping people see what the next steps are a little bit more clearly. So.
Anything else for Abby? Stuff from you could be useful.
Okay.
That's the number one thing, is not knowing how to downsize, how to make decisions.
Yeah.
Especially when you're making that transition to the collection or some kind of, it is after 40 to an unhealthy level of, okay, we're not talking about memory items, we're talking about they kept every magazine and everything the last thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And I tell people, like, I think all of us hoard something on a certain extent, right? I tell people, and it's kind of a joke, but at one point this year, after I moved into my new house last year, I pulled all my kids' two small clothes, and I had 12 storage totes of baby clothes, 12 of them that I had kept over the years, that were not going to be used again, sitting in my garage. And I was like, oh my gosh, what have you done? And I sat there and I made myself, I still have one left. It has taken me forever to get through them, but we all keep something. There's something that we keep and we hold on to, and that's okay. It's when it becomes an impediment to your health or your safety that it becomes a concern. And that is, I think when we break it down, like there's nothing wrong with keeping things. We all keep things. You wouldn't have it in your home, so it was special or important to you at some point. But when it's getting in the way and we're tripping, falling, things are falling on us, that's a concern. Or there's other hazards. So, yeah.
So now I'm going to talk about a little more heavy stuff. So, what we do with Concierge Care Advisors, you want to go ahead and hit the next slide, would be great. Our goal is to look at what's best for the person. We don't go in with any kind of agenda. So, why Concierge Care Advisors was born was the founders knew that there was a lot of people that didn't know how to navigate through the elder care system. There was also people out there that were taking advantage. They were calling themselves placement people and all kinds of stuff, and they were charging people horrible amounts of money, and they were taking advantage of us. And so, the owners of the beginning of this actually went to OMSDF, and they lobbied to have regulations for our industry. So that is huge. There are lots of people that do what we do. Some of them are local, and some of them are not. You have to be careful when you're looking online for stuff, because sadly, your .com people, they come to the top of the search. And so when you go to click on, say, Harbor Point up here at the top of the hill, the first one that shows up is actually a place for moms. You get kind of, I don't want to say suckered in a bad way, but you get tied in with them because you're filling out a disclosure and you don't even know it. That's giving them permission to contact you and all of that kind of stuff. Your .com people, they give you a list of names and they send you on your way. Local people, and there's lots of us, we're going to actually walk hand in hand with you, and we're going to be your advocate. We're going to run interference between the obnoxious salespeople that I was one of, calling you every day and made a decision. We're going to run that interference for you.
She was obnoxious, by the way.
There is something called the Freedom of Choice Act, and so we are required to show you 3 places. Any agent that is following that freedom of choice has to give you 3 places. More than that really is a waste of your time unless we really don't listen to you well and we miss the mark completely. But it is your choice. So how we do things is we're really going to do a pretty intensive intake process. We're going to spend an hour and a half with you, or your parents, or whoever, because we're going to ask all kinds of questions. Some of the basic stuff, financial things, demographic things, that kind of stuff. But then it's one of those things that are important is being in a place that has a lot of activity, or do we need someplace quiet? Do we need someplace with lots of natural light? Do we need someplace that's a little more subdued? We go through all of that. And that's pretty typical of anybody doing what I do. But at the end of the day, who really wants to leave their home, right? And Abby took all my themes. It's the memories that are attached. If I raised my kids here, this is where my whole life has been, and nobody wants to lose that. But sometimes it's not practical to stay in the home. Sometimes it is. So to make it work, you gotta have a plan. And do you have the resources to do it? Do you have the support behind you, whether it's family or access to care, coming into the home, those kinds of things? And there are a lot of people out there that will advocate for you. Homage, which is the Snohomish County Senior Services folks, they're a wonderful resource. There's lots of people out there that can help you. Meals on Wheels, DART transportation, all of those kinds of things that help you stay in your home. When it doesn't work is when you don't plan ahead and you know things are happening, but you kind of put the blinders on, and then disaster hits, something tragic happens, and then all of a sudden your choices are limited and you have to act quickly and not necessarily maybe where you would have wanted to choose. When I hit them, like, so, we look at safety. And so, you know, if somebody's still driving, should they still be driving, right? Have you noticed that there's some dings in the carport? Are there scratches on the sides of the car? Those kinds of things. If there's no memory loss, fine, go for it. Are they still social? Are they still getting out? Or are they isolating in their home for lots of different reasons? Are they capable of cooking for themselves or have the wherewithal to either have Meals on Wheels, or I'm now a fan of Factor. It's pre-made meals. They're fresh. Throw them in the microwave. They're wonderful. But do they have a way of staying healthy nutritionally wise? Are they taking their medicine right? And if there's no real safety concern, they're fine. They're doing great. But you want to look at tomorrow and a year from now and 5 years from now. One of the things that I like to talk to my families when they're in that, oh, we're just starting to look phase, have a line in the sand. When what happens, do you know it's time to make a change? Mm-hmm. And that what is going to be different for everybody. But have that conversation with yourself or whoever you're helping. Mom, when you are starting to have accidents and you're tripping in the house, we're going to look for something else. Let's look at some places and have a plan. So you have a say in what's going on. The next one, please. Yes, sir.
Other mental and physical impairments also fit this list.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So how do you keep yourself safe at home? Some of this is pretty kind of self-explanatory. There's several different versions of the medical alert buttons now. There are some that have a GPS embedded in them. There are some that will detect a fall. The technology of these things is just amazing. Are they falling? Is there a reason they're falling? Are they not drinking enough water? Are they not taking their medications right? Are there rugs and things in the way? The chairlift, we were talking about that, the little elevator duty, but there's also the lift chairs that will help you get from sitting to standing. Those things are wonderful. And I want one. Grab bars in the bathroom, handrails on stairs, ramps getting up into the house. All of these things can keep somebody safe for a while. And not everybody has to leave their home, but we want to set you up for success. And then again, those other resources that are around. Community transit has the DART buses. Lots of different ways to get nutritional meals now that we didn't have before. People, get housekeeping to come in, get caregiver to come in and help because you're not steady on your feet and maybe you want somebody there when you're taking a shower or whatever to minimize chances of having problems. All right, let's go to the next one.
Do you have any other accommodations for things like falling and lack of balance?
That is a whole another topic. What if you have somebody that you're noticing that's starting to happen? Talking with a doctor and get a physical therapy evaluation, and that can be done in the home if they're homebound, so that somebody who really understands body mechanics can see what's going on, and then there are ways to get stronger. What I'm learning as I am not young anymore, if you're not strong from here to here, front to back, you're not going to have good balance. You're not going to have good mobility. And there are ways of keeping those strong even as we age. I used to laugh at sit and be fit classes. I did one the other day and it fixed myself. I was so sore the next day. So there are lots of good ways to keep yourself mobile, but definitely get the doctor involved because there might be something else underlying. going on.
There are tools for the people that she just recommended in addition to helping you before can recommend tools that you can use that might help you address if you can't get the core back and so in that those in-home care, you can help with that.
Absolutely.
And if you've got somebody that fits that and they have pushback, like, no, I don't need to do that, no, I don't need, how do you have that conversation before a major hospitalization begins to fall or things like that?
Sadly, people have the right to make poor decisions. All we can do is be honest with what we see, with compassion and patience. My mother was that person before she passed away, and it was like, Mom, you really shouldn't be going up the stairs anymore with your bag, holding all your stuff that you're going up there and all of that. I got that. Who are you to tell me what to do? But we can't put their arm behind their back and force them.
Yeah, I think that it's a trick to do it, but you mentioned having that unbiased side. So I mean, and when my kids were in kindergarten, I could say go to bed at 8 o'clock at y'all down, and then 3 days into kindergarten, Mrs. Cochran said kindergartners should be in bed at 8 o'clock. Mrs. Cochran, Mom, nothing, and then that happens again later. So it's hard to get them to that point. But if you can, what's the video? If you can get them, I know you're tired of hearing me because you give this person a call, and let them hear it from somebody else.
If you can get it out, it's going to be a lot easier.
And I'm working with a family right now. Mom is not listening to me, but you're a professional. And so, yeah, but my folks are listening to me. I had to threaten my father-in-law. I said, you keep doing this, I'm gonna put you in a home. And he was a funky guy. Other things to kind of look out for is, are they making poor choices for themselves? Are they forgetting to eat? Are they forgetting to take their medications? Are you starting to see that they're getting really anxious and they're afraid to go out anymore and those kinds of stuff? Those are some pretty good red flags that you need to start helping them think about something else.
Are their finances going?
That's huge choices making for them. All right. You're gonna love this next slide. This is everything we're talking. Thanks. We were talking about that. We're doing just fine, right? We are good, but who's doing all the driving to doctor's appointments? Who's doing all the grocery shopping? Who's setting up the MediSets to make sure they're taking their medications? Who's going in and cleaning the house? Who's doing the laundry, all that stuff? I love it when I'm working with a family and I've heard it like a gajillion times. Oh, Mom is really independent, except I know when she's taking a shower and she really has a hard time getting her bra on, and I'm not sure she's taking her medications, but she's really independent. Which person's in the Bible? And you bring up a really good point. As the adult child, and Kathy, I know you've kind of been through it too, it's really hard to see our parentage. And it's, women and their dads, I know this is a stereotype, but it's true. Ladies and their dads, boys and their mamas are the last ones to see a problem. Because this is, you're my hero, you're my dad, you're the strong, and it's really hard to see that. And that's where people like Abby and people like Terry and people like the folks I work with, we can be that unbiased person to come in and not only try to help support your folks, but we're there just as much for you. To help walk you through the gambit of emotions that go along with that. Can I tattle on you and your dad? So I have the privilege. I have the privileges of getting to work with Kathy's dad, right as Mom was having her decline and subsequently passing away. It was
an honor to be there with you guys and help you navigate when do we do this, should we do it? And then mom had another idea.
Yeah,
And
solve this problem.
yeah. But I think the biggest thing is you don't have to be going through this alone. You are not the only ones that are feeling the way you're feeling. And sometimes just knowing that is huge. The mistake I see, and this is when it gets hard, us as kids enable our parents to stay in the home way longer than we should. And a lot of it falls to us because we are doing all of those things, right?
But it also falls to, there are times that there are situations the kids could see the problems and do the changes that is being need to be made, but it is hard to tell your parents what to do, particularly when they are not young. So to have that level of respect and then say, you need to do this for mom because this is not. But that, so there's a lot of dynamics there, and when you can get to the right third party that helps, so like Marta says, or whoever says, we're doing the right thing, and it's not just me, Marta agrees, or what that piece of it is huge.
Well, and it's funny because when you're having those conversations, the parents or whatever, this is not the first time I've heard this.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got like an elderly couple and one is so dependent on the other doing parenting that if something were to happen to that one person, or even the one that is dependent on, something more tragic happens and that one caregiver cannot give the care anymore, or they themselves have tripped or fallen or unstable, that now it's the first.
Well, and
we're gonna get to that.
you see this, like,
Yeah.
you've got the two, and one of the partner thinks that they're giving all the care to the other partner when they're not.
You're not.
The son, daughter is giving the care to this partner was allowing the care of that partner. Anyway.
And, I'm not going to go there. But there does come a breaking point. And we're going to talk about that if you guys stay with the whole group of us next week. We're going to talk about caregiver stress and how this stuff plays into that. Because there does come a point when you as the caregiver just can't anymore. And that's okay. So we're going to talk about that more next week. People really count on neighbors a lot of times and church families. And for a while, that works. But then they get tired or something happens to them. And so you want to make sure that you have a little bit of a safety net, but you've got to have that plan B because that safety net's going to break at some point. Whether it's, I'm really sick of having to deal with this person, and I'm sorry it happens. Or again, they're going to move, or the grandkids are taking more of their time, whatever the case is. And so you got to be careful about how much you count on neighbors. And then actually, David, can you hit a couple? Get to the spouse caring for spouse. There we go. And so you see this with all kinds of different ailments. It really is the hardest when there's memory loss. And so the stress that this puts on the care partner, it affects their sleep, it affects their health. You sleeping with one eye open because you're afraid they're going to leave. The spouse doesn't want anybody else in their home. That's a huge one. Or the well spouse still wants to be social and do things, but the other one doesn't. So the impacts are so broad when you're dealing with somebody specifically with memory loss. I know a lot of people that have happily and very well lived in their homes all the way through till end of life. Very few can do that when there's memory issues.
It's too hard. Okay, next slide. So, you're gonna have to keep those conversations going. You're gonna have to keep it front of mind. There does come a kind of a cost point where in-home care isn't feasible anymore. 8 hours a day is about that breaking point. Anything more than 8 or 12 hours a day, it really is cheaper to be in some sort of a community, whether it's an adult family home or whatever. It's expensive to bring in-home care. It is a smidge cheaper if they're living. But if they're a live-in caregiver, you still have to give them 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep a day. And so then what do you do with those other 8 hours? And that's pretty self-explanatory. How about the next slide, David? One of the things that we can do, and I know other people do it too, we can do a home safety check. It's free. We can give that information to primary care provider or whoever, the advocate is, the family. Again, it's that independent person that doesn't have any, skin in the game. We can go in and do a full assessment of the home. I've done them, and I've seen scary things, and I've seen wonderful things. I went into one that was rodent infested and had to be the one to say you can't come back to this house. So take advantage of that. It's another tool if you have somebody who's kind of digging their heels in and doesn't want to leave. At least it gives you something to work with. How early? So in my position, I have lots of interactions when I go and do home visits. Not with that hat on, but I see things, and you do realize that conversation needs to happen. At what point do because the falls haven't happened yet? They are right, and that is a yes. They're the well caregiver, but something happens to them or has happened to them. How would one broach that conversation to introduce a person like you to one that, let's just do this free thing and see where you are? It's like that. Going, I want you to be safe. And this is kind of, above my pay grade, that I know this person that can come in and give you suggestions.
And you could even angle it so if you want to stay, I want you to stay in your home as long as you are able to. But if you have a fall, that will really cut that time. So let's do the check to see where we can make some changes. You can stay here as long as possible. Right? So, because that's what people ultimately want.
And being proactive, like how soon it's too early to be proactive. Like, oh, that's at least 10 years away. But then you don't know tomorrow's a fall. Right? So, if you're starting to feel that, that's when you do it. Listen to that gut. There's one other thing that was on the slide before. I hear it all the time. I'm never going to make you leave your house, or I'm never going to put you in a home or a nursing home or any of that kind of stuff. Don't make a promise you can't keep. The better way to say that is, I want you to be able to be home and safe for as long as it makes sense. Because if we promise them the guilt that you have, going, well, I promise, and I hear it every day. I promised my mom I would never put her in a home. And we can't make that promise because we don't know.
That also, I think, that plays though into some of your partner conversations. When the older generation, one partner has promised the other, I'm not gonna. We won't be separated. I promise I will always be there. I'm not going to put you in a home. And then that is the barrier for those who are looking at it saying it's time for that promise to stay.
I think that's the biggest one. It is a separating, like the well partner isn't in need at this point, but the one that does need And so it's like, well, we don't want to be separated, but we can't afford for both of us. to be
Well,
things like that can
and
happen.
as homey
Mhm.
as it is presented for the less well person, it's not the environment that the well person is comfortable with it.
Mhm.
You can sell it however you want,
Mhm.
but it is not a place for
Mhm.
anybody to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even those that provide the best care for the unwell person, it is not
Yeah.
set up to support the healthy lifestyle of the well person.
Mhm. Yeah. You were gonna say something, Fran?
And it's gonna be totally inappropriate. My kids tell me they're gonna put me in the home.
The threats are there. And this comes into play a lot, especially people with a strong faith. I promise to love my spouse through sickness and in health. And I cannot remember which pastor told me this, but it was like I've used it ever since. It doesn't mean you have to do the 24/7 care. If you promise to do the best for them. And reframing that helps sometimes, not always. Sometimes will help take some of the sting away because in their mind, especially our older generation right now, I think by the time it's our turn, it's going to look very different. But they take those vows very seriously and very concrete, black and white. Would you say that's a pretty fair statement? And so you're not only dealing with the physical, but we're dealing with the spiritual and emotional and all of those pieces together, regardless of what end of the job we're doing for these folks. And the good ones that are out there, they are going to look at the person very holistically. One last thing, because we're going longer than I thought. Do you guys know, because you already know, I'm not going to go over it, the difference between what an assisted living is, what a nursing home is, what an adult family home is, those kinds of things? Okay, I'm just going to do kind of just a real high level. Sure. I don't like the order on the last slide, so I'm going to put them in my own order. Retirement homes are independent living places. They're not going to offer a whole lot of anything. It's going to be an apartment. They might have some social things and that kind of stuff, but there's going to be no services there. The next kind of step down would be your assisted living or your independent/assisted living community, where meals are going to be provided. There's going to be support around for you. There's going to be weekly housekeeping. There's going to be linens, those kinds of things. You're going to take care of your basic needs. As you start needing assisted living, that's when you start getting care, whether it's medication management, whether it's dressing help, shower help, whatever those things are. It's a higher next level of people keeping an eye on you. A kind of a fork in the road would be a memory care community. There are some that are built in to assisted living communities. There are some that stand alone. Specialized care. They are technically assisted living with specially trained people to deal with all kinds of dementia. The other fork in the road is an adult family home. 6 to 8 people in a house where the care is a little higher level. There's more one-on-one eyeballs on people. Depending on what the person needs, it can go either way. Your next layer is going to be a skilled nursing or rehab. That's where you go when you have a fall or you get sick and you need to get beat back up and you get to go home. The side of that one is the nursing home. And that's what our parents used to call the home. It is a long-term care, usually very clinical, in a building with, 100 other people that are sharing a room. That's that. In-home care is pretty self-explanatory. Hospice care is something that's really misunderstood. People wait too long to bring hospice in. Having hospice does not mean you're going to die tomorrow. Hospice is going to be, again, a second layer of support, not only for the person that's ill, but for the family. And it is an amazing service that needs to start sooner than later.
And can I say,
Pardon me?
When would you say you would start? How do you know?
When you know you've got about 6 months.
6 months. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, so that, yeah, that's what it was. When,
Yeah.
I heard about it from my dad, but turned out he had stuff in a week.
And we don't have an expiration date on the bottom of our foot.
Right, yeah, my grandma ended up on hospice for almost a year and a half, but she still healthy in her
Well,
90s.
And sometimes because they get this extra layer of support, they get better.
Oh, right, yeah.
And gradually off hospice.
Right, she did, and then she moved to Southern.
Kathy, you were going
I
to
just say, and I didn't realize until recently that the concept of hospice and the general service delivery on a piece of paper is the same, but that there are different agencies that provide hospice, depending on what county you're in and things like that. Not all hospice is the same. You know, when we walked into our hospice care with a very proactive physician that said we should consider this now, we thought, well, we're not at that point yet. And so we got into hospice, you know, long enough to establish a really great rapport with the hospice team for when we really get to. But all of that to say, comparing us to other people who had linked up the hospice to different agencies, the agency, anyway, so if you see that coming, I would, you know, ask around, just now, and as you hear people talking about family members on hospice, what is their experience in and through whom did you do hospice? So that when you have, I mean, because, you know, I don't want to advertise or take away from anybody, but if anybody wants to know where we had great service, I mean, that's, if I were to look again, that's where I would look. But anyway, I would say it's not all the same, and it's great to know about what's in your community to be educated.
Oh, yeah, it's community specific.
Well, I think we went through Evergreen and Evergreen Health in Kirkland, but
Yeah.
they do extend this into Snohomish County. They're not just King County, and that happened to be because that's where the neurologist who referred us was. And when we were about to move from a Linwood facility to up here in Harbor Point, we were still within the radius for the same team. So I'm not sure how far, anyway, there were just many things that came up, and then it was more for my sister who had a friend whose family member was on hospice at the same time. They were like, what? They do this? Or they're there how often? And we found out that we had the Cadillac of care.
There's Alpha Home Health and Hospice, there's Continuum Hospice, there's Providence, Evergreen, Kaiser. It used to be called Kindred, and now it's something else. They literally just changed. There are lots of them. And Kathy's right to ask the question, because sadly, not all are created equal.
And we lucked into it, but it just left me, you know, for future reference, or when I run into friends facing that, ask around. And sometimes you don't have the luxury of time to ask around, but if you're thinking that that's down the road, start asking and reading reviews or whatever one does. So.
And then there are lots of other services out there for you. And all of them have specialties with senior. They take special layer of training to be senior certified, whether it's your legal services, elder care law, all of that. There's the donor plaza down in Edmonds for use equipment. There's lots of different ways to make this easier for you. One of the least used benefits is the VA aid and attendance benefit. If you have somebody who was in active duty during a time of war, they didn't have to be on the front line. They just had to be in active duty during the time of war. They get about $2,100 a month through the VA aid and attendance. Surviving spouses also get a benefit. And so it's a very little used benefit that's going to run out here pretty soon, because we're going to have a generation that didn't have a war to serve in. But we still have a lot of the Korean guys, the Vietnam guys. We still have a sprinkling of World War II guys. It's still out there. And so that is something that if that applies, it's definitely worth your time to apply. It's kind of a pain, but it's worth it, because it's going to stretch out your resources for the prison goal. Conflict counted as one? I don't know for sure, but I'll find out.
But most of those people aren't quite up
aren't there?
to age.
Well, they were at the end of their service.
Yeah.
They served during a wartime and they were on the front.
Yeah, as long as they were, active
Right.
during one of those other ones.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty well hit them all. You guys I threw a ton of information at you.
Now, do you have your slide deck available with,
Sure.
And this has been recorded as well, so you can, we'll put it in a holding tank for those who, want to have it.
I noticed a couple of them shifted, so I will download the slide deck as a PDF file.
Okay.
Let you have that, absolutely.
I'm glad you're recording this. I will be in Alaska next week, so I can't come. But it's because you talked about the caregiver stress, and I was thinking, well, my mom lives by herself or whatever, so but not spouse. However, my husband has kind of a terminal cancer, and so I know at some point down the road, I'll have some caregiver stress, so that actually is important.
So this is what I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
Self-care
Yeah.
is mandatory.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be there for the long haul for him.
Yeah.
So that's the short version of what we're going to talk about. But
Right.
if you guys have any questions as you go through stuff, my information's out there. Just pick up the phone and call me.
You mentioned, what is homage? You mentioned that earlier in the area advocacy thing. What is their role?
The Homage have a whole lot of different things. They have a mental health section. They have a health and wellness section. They have volunteers that go out and do home repairs. Just a bunch of stuff. And they do a bunch of social things too. And they have a very active multicultural community there. It's on 196 and Highway 99. It's spelled HOMAGE. And it's a senior services group of people. They also have support groups. They have peer-to-peer counseling with people, all kinds of great resources available. I will make sure that
Do they have, do they, or do you have any direction for agencies that have some guidance towards more easily accessing and navigating some of the legal questions around senior living, particularly if you find yourself in a senior living situation that's not up to the standards you think it should be? Just help, somebody who can guide you through reading a WAC or things like the Washington Administrative Code, with allocating them this, trying to figure out which department to call on or what the, it's like, and the phone, and that's actually not a current to me, but has just been something that I have struggled with in the past and wondering who has, and at the time, quite honestly, forgot that I had your card, and I thought, I wonder like if one of these is a place for moms, do they answer that question? So I just called them saying, I don't need you to place me, I just wondering, do you have links to the legal resources? Or is 1-800-OLYMPIA phone name, so that's that.
Every senior living community, whether it is a nursing home, skilled, assisted living, whatever, adult family, they have to have posted their hotline.
And
And
you don't want to be asking them for that stuff.
well, it's posted,
Right.
it has to be posted in a place that is easily visible.
Typically around the elevators or the
Yeah.
restroom.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's the elder abuse hotline.
Mhm.
Yeah, and sometimes that's not, sometimes that's not you're trying to find out, which places can require 30-day notice to leave and which ones require 45. And they're just
Well, that's going to be contracted. That's a conversation we can have later.
but even at some of, anyway, so just
Yeah.
sometimes there's some of those contract things that you're trying to figure out what's the language and who to call.
And that's what your ombudsman is for.
Okay.
And that number, that 800 number is going to get you into the ombudsman. And that is really your best source for those comments. So did our person that was online, did they go away?
To make sure that they're getting.
Yes, they are there.
Oh, there's a comment.
Oh, you're welcome.
And next week's conversation is Kimberly.
Here's your strategy. And like any good term paper, it's not completely done yet.
It will be.
Well, thank you guys.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Really, it's helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you.